Well, everybody knows the Zimbabwean voice now, that's for sure. And it's a beautiful voice, that one. One of unity, one of togetherness, one of peace, one of love, you know. That's the way forward. Oga, Oga.
Virginia, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you taking the time on your Sunday that you should be resting and doing other things, but you're here with me, and I appreciate that.
Well, resting for some of us is something that we try and do. Maybe when we try and lie down around 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning, but in between you still an hour, maybe around 5 or so. We just can't. We are. What can I say? We are servants of the people. You want to become a writer, an artist, you don't belong to yourself, you don't belong to your family, you just belong to the people. And I'm talking of diversity, even children, everybody, seniors, what not. Even those people who think artists and writers are crazy, we still accommodate them. Because we do what we have to do while we're still around. Yeah.
Beautifully said. There's so much I want to say, but I think for everyone listening, of course, the reason why, maybe I'll give context as to why I invited you. Obviously, we met on different reasons, but I was watching this documentary a lot I've watched it so many times, actually on my Instagram, about rock music in Zimbabwe in the 70s. And Albert Nyati was the main gentleman that was, of course, narrating the documentary itself. And then when you met on a Zoom call, first I watched the documentary, and then I saw that you were singing with a band called Wells Fargo in that particular documentary, which I just found it incredible, because I didn't even know we had rock music in the 70s in Zimbabwe, one. But then two, when you came on my Zoom call for this other project we're working on, I was so enamored, because I said, oh my gosh, I've seen the woman before, for a rock project, not even to do with anything with writing. But my question is for everyone listening, of course, I know you through rock music or through writing, but for everyone listening, who is Virginia Phiri, just so we have a broad context from your own voice, not mine.
Virginia Phiri was born in Zugali township, Bulawayo, in the township, Ekhasi, in 1954. Growing up there, brought up by everybody. When we grow up in the township, it's not only your parents or your grandmothers, your mothers, your aunts who look after you. You belong to the community. You're part of it. They mold you. You become who you are and how you are because of the people. And that's what I still value. And I'll never forget. And I'll always value everybody right up to now. Those who are still alive, those who've passed on, those who've seen us as children, and they see us as adults and doing they'll say, oh yes, that one, we remember her. Even my Lord, I think the last teacher who had seen me at primary school, passed on about 2-3 years ago, said to me, oh my God, she was always like that. And I actually looked back and said, oh my God, haven't I changed? Well, it looks like even in my senior, I still find myself as myself and nothing more. Yeah.
Beautifully said. When I was doing my research, of course, I saw that you were born in Zugali township and you were raised there by your community. But then I also saw that you're involved in so many different things, from sport to music. Where did that come from? Was that just the nature of the environment in which you grew up? Was that instilled by your parents? Where did that come from, that diversity of experience?
It's partly, I come from a background of people who've done things in their lives. On my maternal side, my grandpa was a chief, and his wife also a very good woman who I think also helped in good governance, that chieftainship. Not that my grandpa was not good, but I think she was a good partner and also an influence. That's my father, the father of my mom, my grandpa. And then on the paternal side, there were also people who sort of like at that time, sort of like coming up with a little bit of entrepreneurship here and there, very church people of the Anglican Church. And, that sort of thing. Then growing up in the struggle, our family belonged to Zapu of Ukulu, Ujoshua Nkomo. And that as children, that's how we grew up. We grew up in that environment of activism, of freedom, of whatnot. As children already, I remember when I think Martin Luther King had died, because I was very curious and mischievous and listened to all the little news because my parents had gone. I stayed with my uncle and aunt when I was going to school at primary. And he said, come, let's listen to the news. We might hear about your parents or something. And then something happened that Martin Luther King had died. And then one of, it sort of happened. I said, Martin Luther King, I'd actually heard about this movement of people, whatever, in America. That's a long time. But as a kid, you're so curious and mischievous. And my uncle said, come, let's listen to the news. Local news in local languages, also not necessarily in English, because that was in the township. So every 7 o'clock, or if it's in the Virginia, come. And then the other children didn't quite, I don't know why, he had really soft spot for me. Maybe he had seen something, I'm not quite, but they were all politically, everybody, even children, some of the children didn't know what was going on, but I knew what was going on. So from then on, I think also from the family influence, the community itself, we were near Babafield Stadium, where Okulunkomo would come and there were dress meetings and people would be chased by dogs and the white policemen and all, and at times tear gases were cooking. As children, we would run and put water in the big gamapav, the big baths, metal ones, so that my uncle come, then others, they come and wash their faces and go back again. And the children, the whole thing was just, it was a movement where I always tell people that, you see, Soweto also came, but we actually in the township, people, it's not been documented by anyone. But that's how that was Mzilikazi, McDonald Hall, near Mpilo Hospital. That's where I stayed, almost the gate. Everything was happening at McDonald Hall, the meetings or whatnot and as children, you became, as for Virginia Phiri, became very curious, notorious and everything. Not in a bad way, but I was very, very, and that's also led to the music, led to the literature. By the time I was 14, or not 14, 13, 14, I had finished reading James Hadley Chase, everything, and moved. Meals and Boons for me didn't make any sense of the little girls giggling and all. Oh no, I went for jail. And by the time I think I was 13, 14, I was reading D.H. Lawrence. And I was caught in Form 1 reading Lady Carter's Lover by my teacher, Mr. Dube. Oh, that was it. And he said to me, how far have you gone with this book? And I said, I've gone where the madam of the house was visiting the gamekeeper. Oh my God, that blew him up. He just swooped and bring that book here. Those books were banned, and there I was already finished with James. I'm moving into something, and that was my uncle's book. I'd broken into the suitcase and broken the back. No one saw, we swept. Nobody knew it had been opened, it was just locked. But I used to pick these books from there, put them back and put the wire and tie. So that's come the literal. Then as for the music, Bulawayo was a hub for music at McDonald Hall, like I tell everything. So already everything was cooking. So then it led from Isimanje Manje into Mizomkashio Imbakanga before us. The people who dance from South Africa, Mahlatini and the like, also listening. And then later on, our age group, the seniors from Miwana, EPA and company. So we also, I got carried away. My brother, who was into this music, also home bought LPs and the like, and it just, everything together. And the school also was going on, by the way. Didn't quit.
I feel like, we often, I was actually watching something yesterday, but we often actually like on Soweto a lot and a lot of the southwestern township in South Africa, but Zugali is a township as well. And often designed in the same way, in the same grid, to keep particular people specifically close to industrial areas for a particular reason. And that obviously created a sort of a melting pot in many ways of diversity and so many things happening. I think with you, there were so many things around activism, music, protests, all of these things happening. I think on one hand, of course, you have a natural inclination and curiosity, but at the same time, there's a lot to be curious about because it's always happening around you, if I can put it that way.
I would like to also add one thing. Bulawayo City Council had a very good program for the youth, for children. We had clubs, we played sport. There was music. There was no bass guitar, but there was that big box where they had a string. People used to play there. And all that influenced us. We went to swim at the public swimming pool. With so many activities as children, it was up to you. Even basketball, which people think is something new or after independence, we already had it in the township on the tarmac, table tennis, not. What we knew for the class that was a bit above us, they used to play tennis near Mpilo Hospital, and that attracted a lot of, but with the Bulawayo City Council really did a lot for the youth. And the art center, which was built near McDonald's, became also an art center, I think. And then the library, Mziliga's library near McDonald's, when I was in secondary school, that's who I used to read. And whenever I publish a book, I make sure the book goes to that township library and goes to my school as well. So you can see it wasn't only activism, it was also the future of Bulawayo in the arts. As you can see, what arts is like in Bulawayo, it's a way of life. Whether it was choral singers, like they used to have choirs, they used to have everything, or traditionals, and they even had Nyao dancers, or Greenspan. There was Greenspan Farm, your near Mpilo there at the back. The Nyao dancers had their own thing too. So you can understand, So really, it was a hub, and that kept, apart from, in fact, a lot of activism was hidden in the arts.
Yes. It's like a secret way
of which people,
carrying information.
I would refer to rock and roll. Rock and roll was a rebellious type of music where I can say, you just went mad. When I sang, I felt like I was flying. I felt like I was somebody else. I mean, it's sort of, that was a sign of rebelliousness. We couldn't record. Of course, we couldn't sing our own thing. We had to really cover. I used to cover Johnny's Chocolate, and I still hold on to this one, as you can see. Oh yes, piece of my heart. And it wasn't, when I sang with the group, it was called a high court, because before it became Wells Fargo after I'd left for the wilderness. So, and our band leader, and there was Benson, who was a lead guitarist, and then Davey, who also played the bass, and Handsome Mappies. Unfortunately, we lost him some years ago. And it was crazy. And Eba had no nonsense. He would say, Virginia, if your voice has to break for you to be able to whatever. So once that happened, don't touch any stubs of cigarettes, and they'll kill you. That's Eba. And I said, no, I didn't. And people would think when I sang, when I really went mad, they thought I smoked something or I drank something. Oh no, I was just high on music. And I was on a trip on music. And that's a time when people were experimenting with all sorts of, it never happened. It was really sopa.
What did you want to be when you were a child? I know you said there's a previous generation above you. I think a lot of the time people could be teachers or nurses, or maybe with the highest profession that people could be. What did you want to be when you were a child, when you grew up?
My paternal family people are teachers.
Right.
And my maternal people are nurses and doctors. But at that time, they were not doctors. But I've always said to myself, when I used to see this woman at Mpilo Hospital, a female doctor who had a jacket, and we used to call her Rackle Welsh because of the way she walked when she got out of the car. We'd take an interest from school and watch her when she walked. She was like Rackle Welsh. And I mentioned Rackle Welsh, she's just died anyway. But I just thought of that the other day. I was looking 2 days ago. So I said, oh yes. And I know we're not supposed to be doctors or anything. I didn't want to be a nurse. I didn't want to be a teacher. I wanted to be a doctor, but I didn't know how or where or whether it was that was in my heart. Absolutely. Medical doctor. Like that woman doctor at Bill Hospital, the white woman.
I want to be like her.
Oh yeah, yes.
And then
she had a nice car, a red car, which she drove rather a little bit fast, you know. And the way she walked, we followed her to find out who she is. And we would keep with my colleagues like Josephine Klanga. We will go Jackie and see Raquel. She really walked like Raquel Walsh, and that was it.
Yeah.
So that was a role model for something else. But as I wanted to be a medical doctor, which I never did. But I doctor everybody, even at home or friends or anything, they get injured in a little bit of this and that. But my background eventually my uncle became a doctor, medical doctor. My other aunt became a dentist, and other uncles became, the whole family maternal, the medical people. And on my father's side, they're still going on the teaching. Even some of my generations were a bit lost, and you're still being teachers. And they love it, so can't do much.
And yeah, I think often kids become what they see. So often you'll see, oh, wow, the red card, there's the white jacket. I want to be like that, you know, because the way in which one carries themselves. But then, of course, you went on a different path.
Yeah, but you see, things changed. After the wilderness, I came back and I realized, okay, my young sisters and brothers were already working. They were cool. They were everything. I had to start from scratch. I had to go to college to try and do accountants and all, because the doctor thing didn't work out because something had gone wrong somewhere. I had lost time. I got mixed up, and I'd seen all sorts of funny things that I didn't like to see anymore as a doctor. And I thought, okay, it's too late. At the age of 26, I went into accountancy studying. And before I could even finish, I was picked by Mr. Klaus Hecht, who had been referred. He actually had a woman called Sheila Burita, who had met me in Zambia, said, look, there's this girl who's trying to do accounts and study. Take her on. Your staff is gone. People are going to South Africa. That was after independence. Take her on, train her, and see what happens. So I became an accountant. I only graduated in 1986, but I was already working. And up to now, I do consultancy. Mr. Hesh practically took his head and put it in my head. That was balance sheet, tax, and company law. Up to now, I can argue with anyone, even the modern accountants and all that stuff. What Mr. Hesh taught me, Mr. Clark, when I joined the company, I was around the ages of 70. The whole of the farming community, we did the accounts for them, professional firm of accountancy and companies and whatnot. I didn't mess around. That was before computers, where you wrote by hand, you posted by hand, you balanced by hand, and you will say to anyone, if you make mistakes, I'll kill you. But he had a soft spot for me because I didn't realize why. Little did I know that he just wanted me to be his second in command later on. So by the age of 46, I had hit the glass ceiling and went into consultants. And then I started writing full-time and traveling and many other initiatives and the arts critique and whatnot. Really everything, the whole lot of package of it. So
I want to come back to two things. You said the wilderness. Before we go to that, I'm going to come back to the post-accounting career. The wilderness, define that for me.
The wilderness is when the young people were leaving. I was too young to leave, but I did leave with those who were leaving. University of Zimbabwe, high school students and teachers and everybody else. We just had to disappear. Had to go
because of the state of the nation at the time.
Things were becoming a bit tight, and it was so sad because I had to leave my band. You had to sacrifice everything. I was at the peak of my music when Edson Lighthouse and Christie came through South Africa, a rock band from England who came through, I think they came through South Africa to Bulawayo. We were the curtain raisers. I wore what now they call bum shorts or bum whatever. We used to call them hot pants. I really wore my hot pen there, and I was at the middle of the stage. My band we were the curtain raisers, and all those people had come to Bubblefield Stadium. It was a diversity, all races, everybody. In fact, we broke apartheid.
Because music is the one thing that brings people together.
Yes,
music
people just went crazy, just went mad. Even when we weren't even that particular, we were playing at all this. We used to call them Woodstock. You know, after Woodstock, Woodstock. Yes, people would come. And one time my brother said, you'd get us arrested because all these white kids and other, you know, at that time, and all diversity white kids, the so-called, that name they used colored, and the Indians, even there was Giga there who was also everything. My brother says, you get us arrested. Oh, no, only because all these kids are coming for you guys. And we couldn't stop, and nobody could stop us. I think that in the end, they just turned a blind eye and let them have fun. But it was against the law, but we did. When these kids came in, and sometimes they even invited us to play on their area. I remember one time we went to some white school to play for whatever they were closing, some high school. With our band. So you can, and somebody wanted to steal me to go and play in the nightclub, Black Hawk Door at that time. I mean, I was underage. Just the voice of my voice to play, and you can imagine. And I say to myself, oh my God, no, I can't. I refused. And this guy says, that's your future. You can even go outside there. I mean, I was a child. I was terrified. I said, no, I refused. Back to my band. I never even told my band. No.
Do your parents know that Virginia, she's at school, but she's also doing the bands, and she's, you know?
My parents were already gone, and I was my uncle and aunt. My aunt and uncle didn't mind. They enjoyed. They couldn't stop me. I didn't do anything wrong at home. I did all my housework, like cooking and cleaning dishes and the like, and sweeping, and my grades were not bad. Everything was fine. I mean, I was respectful as well. I'm still actually. So I was harmless. But I did my things, and I'm a person who likes to do with intense efficiency and all that stuff, and cool. I try to stay out of trouble. I don't like fights, but if I'm provoked, maybe I can be something else. Yeah, but I've always been, I mean, that's my life, those who know me even now. But I love to take everything I do seriously, whether it's gardening, whether it's running. And also I did marathons when I came back. I used to run marathons. I'm very fit for my age, as you can see.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's so phenomenal. So we've got the bands with the rock music, and then of course we go away, then we come back, we do accounting. Then of course we do accounting until in our 40s. But then we, of course, the books and the writing become an integral part again of your life as well. And then also I think there's books and writing, but then there's also this, I'll do my research, languages. Like you speak many languages. So the books and writing and the languages, how did that come into your life? And you know, how did those things come into your life? Those
well,
things.
Already when I was an accountant, I got bored. I used to scribble all sorts of funny things, you know, write things that people might think, okay, is this? And I would hide those little bits and pieces of short stories, little poems and all. And I'll say, what would people say? She's really crazy, like people say she's mad. I hid them until an opportunity came where there were Zimbabwe Writers Union, which was for published writers, established men and women, and some of us were small little fries who also tried to get nearby, and I went along and all. And then a little bit more younger women came and other women came, but I think the senior women who established realized that at ZU, it was dominated by male authors. And when male authors got themselves published and became a bit famous, they didn't care about the female writers. The women were just either you have a post on the boards, either you're a secretary or making tea or just not taken seriously. The issues of women are critical and very important. So people like Barbara Nkala, Chiedza Msengezi, Maim Tangadura, Flora Welch had come from Germany, Monica Skeet from Barbados, and many other, and Coco Mapena from Bulawayo. You know, they all came together, and some academics as well, to say, look, let's start our own thing. So being curious, as you know, and all that, I also stood by and here, by others were, you know, these big people's things. Oh no, Virginia was always there, hanging around and all that stuff and whatever, volunteer. So 1990, Zimbabwe Women Writers was born, and I was a founder member as well. So from then on, we started sharing, you know, looking for money here and there, people like Hivos, Dutch organization, CEDA, Sweden, CEDA, Canada, UN, UNICEF, and they all try to help us to come up with the concept of writing skills, workshops for women in English, in Ndebele, Shona, and all. And we started with anthologies, having women, about 10 women or 12 women in each book and all, co-authoring and whatnot. And these writing skills workshops really worked wonders. People like Barbara Nkala, Chiedza Msengezi took us through, and others, that we learned how to write from ourselves. They were not writing schools. And then as usual, I was very curious also. I became one of the people wanted to now say, well, can I sample my crazy stuff when themes came up, certain themes which people could not touch, like for instance, this one, desperate, you know, cause of prostitution, third world countries. I went into that as well. But after having written with other women, anthologies, I think I contributed to more than 15 or 20 anthologies until 2002, when I also started having my own books published. But I never stopped co-authoring, even up to now. For instance, we co-authored this African Visionaries, 42 contributors in Africa for African, you can Google it later. And I was commissioned to portray Wangari Maathai, the first Black woman Nobel Prize winner. And I said to myself, okay, I think that's a promotion from where I'm coming from. And then I've got my own Highway Queen. It's also quite, you know, very trending. And I've also Grey Angels, which came 2019. And I've got also this one. This was called Destiny. It's something like, in those days we used hermaphrodites, but now it's LGBTQ stuff, which actually those are taboos I touch on up to now. And that's my specialty. So I go in areas where other people don't want to go, or don't dabble, or they feel embarrassed or anything, but somebody has to do it. So that's my area. Right now I'm on a book called Robbed of Dignity. It's also one of those untouchables and whatever, but that's my area, and people have got used to that. I am not embarrassed, because some of these books, I didn't write them to go into schools or university research institutions, but almost everybody now, they adapt them for education, for research, for whatnot, and all at higher levels or whatever. And some are being adapted into plays. Somebody must script for film. It's only that sometimes things in Zimbabwe a bit, but I think things will move, and they'll be moving. And I think communities have been aware. In fact, I wouldn't like to, I think also policy, before even the policies that are coming through now, some of them talking about the girl child or whatnot, Virginia Phiri had already started a long time ago. And now people appreciate that, oh, there she was already. Things came up afterwards, and I'm so happy. I can see most of my work in some of the policies that affect women, children, and all that stuff and whatnot, health, you know, even when HIV and AIDS came and everything else. I had no support. I had to start on self-publishing, because no publisher would risk in publishing somebody they don't know, or issues that will embarrass their board members or something or whatever, or create havoc with and other quarters to say, what are you now publishing? So I said to myself, wait a minute, if you don't want, I'll go it alone. And I've done very well. And I moved on. And at that time, I remember Chiedza Msengezi saying last year, Virginia, when you started that thing because of desperation, people, it's become the trend. It's become, and it really, I don't know. I'm a risk taker, but at times, if I have to risk something, I want something nice to come out of it. And I keep on risking, and I keep on getting moving and going. It's not for me. Like I said, we work for the people. It's everybody's. It's not only Zimbabwe. This is the diversity of, they're everywhere. And also, they're on Amazon Kindle bookstore. By 2013, I realized that, okay, it's not because of COVID, no. Even the 2019 one, which came just before COVID in November, I had already 20 February, before we launched the book, it was already on Amazon Kindle bookstore, because of institutions that teach the books, researchers who use the books. And I realized that the only way they can download, work with them, it's faster, it's easier. I used to post them I used to send them. It didn't work even in the, it's slow or something. So technology has also helped us a great deal as writers, I must appreciate. And on the copyright issues, I'm also really have done a lot of copyright work, became Zim copy chair twice, and are trained by UNESCO, by ARIPO, by WIPO, and others in copyright. I'm very well versed. So also, having been one of the first few people to say he needed to know your rights as a writer's, rights and things and whatnot, infringements, you get it, territorial, whatnot, that sort of thing. And also people plagiarize, or they also pirate and things. You need to know these things. So it's also one of the things that helped me to share with others, to wake others up and all that stuff.
Yeah. I keep this topic, of course, the podcast name is Zimbabwean Voices, and I like the word of voice.
Voice.
And the way the voice can be expressed in many different ways, then used in many different ways. Of course, you've used yours prolifically in your lifetime and still continue to do so, whether that's through music, poetry, writing, activism.
And talking, I present a lot of stuff,
And talking, where does that come from? I'm trying to figure out where that productivity or the urge to keep going. Like you even spoke before, you said, look, I have things to do. I have to put people to work for and empower. Where does that worldview come from?
I love talking. When I was a small child, even at primary school, noisemakers, talkative was Virginia. The teacher goes out, and we got punished. And I was always, and then in the end, even when I was in primary school, there were times when teachers realized that this one is a crack, or not crack, whatever. I became a prefect, trying to cool me down. If I cool down a bit, but once I'm out of the grounds, and then 1969 and 1976, I became a head girl. But still, it was in good faith. I didn't really, of course, I had to be responsible, but at the same time, be smart. And I love talking. And also, I must say, last year, I was honored to actually celebrate 60th anniversary of African literature and writers at Ibadan University in Nigeria. And the thing is, I was asked to actually present a paper. And when the invitation came, they said the criteria was, I was one of the top writers consistently in Africa, because it was 1962 when the Maiden Conference started. And I said, I'm too young and too small, but I think the criteria that they used, they must have observed me, they must have done what they're supposed to do. And right now, like I told you, I'm the Wokala African Literature Association, Ms. Caucus president or chair, whatever you want to call it. So it's the responsibilities that I had always gone right from primary school as a prefect, as a head girl, and I've chaired a lot of organizations like Zimbabwe Women Writers. One time I became a treasurer there because I had to work, but I'm a founder member of Academic and Nonfiction Authors Association, founded in 1996 because of the same reasons. Academics and nonfiction authors were never catered for. That had to come out. So I became a chair as well there. And I actually work with everybody else, and also responsible for starting these chapters with our Norwegian supporters, the whole of Africa. I started with South Africa, went to Uganda, Nigeria was already existing, Kenya and all. Now it's all over. So I'm called grandmother of this academic and nonfiction movement by one of the Trond Andresen from the Norwegian nonfiction says, oh, Virginia is a grandmother of whatever. So we're joking. And I don't mind. I sat on the board of Zimbabwe International Book Fair, on Zimbabwe Women Resource Center and Network. I actually also sat on Women and AIDS Support Network, and many other things. And right now I'm on PEN, also on the board of PEN, Zimbabwe. And you just belong, and also a few corporate, private board. So I keep on going, and I think if I didn't do all those things, I'll be bored. I don't have time for hanky pankies because my time is full. I don't say, okay, a glass of wine here and there and no partying. I have no time. Once in a while, if I go to an event, which means it must be really something. If it's just enjoying and whatnot, not that I don't like to enjoy, I do. But the things that need to be done, that many people should be doing, but they are not doing. So I feel responsible. And I love to do straight things, by the way. I love to say, I want to do straight things. I've come a long way. I'm an old timer now. Let me just leave this earth in that same, whatever. I try, but there's so many temptations, there's so many whatever, and things that come into your way to try to detract you and do. It's hard. When you are a person like Virginia Phiri, it's not that I hide I don't. But I'm busy doing things. Sometimes you don't have the time to, sometimes even for your own family. And the family realizes that Virginia is busy, and I'm grateful to my family. I'm grateful, both paternal, maternal, and everybody, my immediate family and my siblings. Everybody understands I have to. They'll say, oh, Virginia has to do what she has to do. And I'm so happy that, that the freedom that I got with my aunt and uncle in Bulawayo. Of course, my parents, maybe if I'd grown up with my parents, if they hadn't gone with the struggle earlier, maybe they would have been a bit harder on me. But when my aunt and uncle realized that I did no harm to anyone, I did everything else, that freedom of giving your children freedom, it liberates them to do more than harm. Because if you try to restrict them too much, they really rebel in such a way that it becomes a negative issue. I think so. And that's what even the parenting that you see that is happening these days, you find that sometimes the children are scared of their parents. A lot of young people say, Virginia, we're so, I was never scared of my parents or my aunt and uncle. Why are you scared? But I think it's the way, and then eventually they will say, oh, they are rebellious. No, I think we create it sometimes as parents. We must try to let them, caution them nicely and all, not overdo it, because that's really, oh yes, it drives, and they go into all sorts of things, trying to forget the problems at home, drinking, drugs, and many other things. Yeah, so we must be very careful. I mean, my childhood was very happy. Let me say that. If you ever, not happy, it's not tons and tons of money that make children happy. It's the environment, the situation, the freedom, the people, the love of the ordinary people like myself and everybody else, which actually still, it has to, it's love really makes a difference. Makes a difference. And working hard, by the way. If you're lazy, you get nothing. Yes, you have to work hard. You really have to work and take things seriously. Of course, you can play as well. There's time to play also and have a little bit of fun, but take things seriously. That's how I operate.
What I always like to, so of course with this podcast, I try and at least I try and get as many diverse voices as I can, and from different ages, different genders, different perspectives, and so on and so forth. And I think I think you're one of the old, you're still full of life and full of energy. So I mean, preface it by saying that.
Yeah, I'm an old timer, I must agree. Of course, even though I look cool, like most people say, oh, you're cool, man. And all those young people and the grandchildren of our grandchildren around, oh, cool. And they call me Gogo V.
Gogo V, but you've Gogo V.
Gogo in the Sindebele. There's the little ones, a lot of you, even in schools where I go to tell stories, Gogo V, Gogo. Sometimes you're in the street or you're saying, oh, Gogo V. But it's cool, Gogo V in her jeans and all that stuff, and all waving at each other and enjoying ourselves. And that's it. I mean, it's really also even the tiny little ones, you have to stop. They greet you, they've known you. Some you don't even know. They just took an interest, look at you, and you have to stop.
Yes. What advice do you typically have for young people in general? I mean, having lived, the life that you have, what advice do you have for young people? Of course, it doesn't have to be one thing, but what kind of gems do you typically pass on from the life that you've lived?
Well, I think first of all, one has to decide what they want to be. And sometimes parents force children. I want you to be a doctor. I want you to be a lawyer. I want you to be this and that. I think it's nice and polite to say, oh, sorry, by the way, what do you want to do? Or they will be free to say. So that's on both parents and the young people. They must feel free to tell their parents, oh no, I don't want to be doctor, but I want to be a musician, or I want to be an engineer, or I want to be a pilot, or I just want to, it's nice because they want to do that, and they'll do it wholeheartedly. How many times do we know that a youngster was forced to become a lawyer? She graduates, she finishes all those 3-4 years or whatever. And in the end, she says, no, I don't like it, dumping it and starting all over again. And that's wasted time, but they still make it. Next time you see them, they're doing very well in their preferred profession. So I think with the young people, they must be free to speak to their parents. They must also make sure that they try to reason with them to say, look, you're being hard on us. What's the problem? Or through relatives, through friends and all. They're your parents. They brought you into the world. Speak to them. Even if you don't have parents anymore, some people have lost their parents. They've got aunts, uncles, or whatever. And not so much fostering in our communities. People just, bring in relatives and all. It's not. But the young people have to have I would go to anyone and ask for anything, even if I didn't know them. Excuse me, this and that, or I would like to do this. What do you think? And they will ask you questions. You must also be prepared. You just have to also listen. And then once you do something, you focus. If you're in trouble, go talk about it. Don't start taking something because to forget. And also, when it comes to dating, people become a bit confused. Never get confused when you're dating. You're at college, do your college, it's dating, it's fine, but you have a future to look into. If my history, where I'm coming from. If I just come back and I never even started at that age, what will I be now? Who will I be now? Excellent. I'm really confident. I can do anything that I want to do. I can do even anything the young people can do. I can also do. My seniors can do. I can also do that. I participate a lot in fact, I hang out with a lot of young people that just come forward and we talk. Some of those who are scared of their parents, they come to me and we talk and we put our program. By the time their parents discover what's happened to a child, they've changed, they tell them later, oh, it was so and so. And then in the end, it becomes, the young people, it's their life. Life is complicated, more complicated than it was when we were young people. They need to work harder, they need to focus, they need to plan, they need to go to school if they can. Sometimes there's no money to go to school, but do the best that you can. Some of the young people can go to school to educate themselves. Sometimes they can be lucky. It's not everyone who gets a scholarship. No. I think that's it. And these young people, both genders, you just have to. And also, I always say, when I was doing the children's program on children's literature and thing, which I also do, in fact, from 2021 to 2022, started 2020, and I couldn't go to school with CDs. Playing around with my phone, I started talking stories to the phone, and then I recorded stories and I sold it to my colleagues. And I said, please, let's come. There were 7 of us. The first one, the CDs didn't work. We started with 3, and then we launched it at Harare City Library. They went into schools when lockdown was a bit better. Then we had the second lot. They also went to schools. And then last year, I came with a concept called one-page story with an illustration, colored paper, like in green or whatever, and just 1 page. And the guy says, no, it's not possible. And I said, I'll do it for you. So I had samples and I gave them. We just actually distributed these in schools in October. In total, 78 sets of files with, laminated, 1-page story back to back, went into schools to get the children to read, because they were not reading anymore. They were not going to school anymore. They were bored because of the lockdowns. They were being depressed, frustrated. So to take a book, and these are readers, they're not textbooks, just to get them back into the thing. So it's sort of like bribing, just 1 page. She reads this one, 10 at the back or so. So eventually they're going back. That's the concept I came up with. The CDs, I also came up with this story to record with my colleagues, and we're 7 of us. And I sort of so in other words, while other people were not writing during COVID and all, me and this lot, 3 women and 4 guys, we rot. And I said, we have to move. We just got a little tiny little money to produce those, but they've gone into schools. It's got nothing to do with the Ministry of Education. We informed them that's what we're doing when we launched the Harare Library for both. We invited them to come to be there. It was restricted number of launch because of the COVID protocol, but they are in schools. And I'm happy that it's done. So you can see that, and you know, the stories I say to people, we have to correct the primary school. I'm looking at myself, the way I went to the primary school, the way what I learned by the time I went to Form 1, I was complete. I could spell anything. I knew the whole world, where it was or how, everything. By the time the child finishes grade 7, they must know what. Form 1 is just moving in a different direction. And that's what, and this is why I started in 2016 with the ECDs before they even went to school. They are in like creche or so, but they're now going to these little schools and all near my house. And I went there and I started, then I expanded to other schools. It's worked perfectly well. And those children, some of them are now in grade 7 this year. So everybody, and that we follow up. I never gave up. This is where Coco V came from.
Coco V has a lot to give. There's a lot to give and a lot to share and a lot to offer.
We share, and they, you know, they love it because some of them are now big, and as they come, they also go through the same thing. So I can tell stories, I can laugh with the children. We go to Harare Library programs and all. I mean, you just become like them because they're children. In fact, my first published works was commissioned by UNICEF to write readers for children, 1995, 96. We approached 1994, but they were written 1995 published, 1996 published. And these are role models for girls, for professions, because most of the professions were male dominated. So UNICEF said, look, come up, this is Zimbabwe Women Writers now, they contracted 4 authors on 1 book. So we did that. That was my first publication 1995, 96, before I even published other things. So you can, I'm going back to where I started with children's literature. And I'm going to step further to go into ECD, because I know when you have it right at that level, the children, I know it from our teachers were standard 4s and standard 6s who taught us. By the time we got to Form 1, we were just fine. And most of the stuff I use now as an adult is the stuff that I learned at primary school. In that time, it was also African education, but our teachers were committed. They taught us fully, sub A, sub B, and then standard 1 up to standard 6. By the time you're standard 6, you spoke your English. The way I'm speaking now, the English is what I spoke in 1969, or from before that when I finished primary school. I didn't go to an A group school. I know most people, where did you go? No, in the township, So really, strictly speaking, it also depends with the students. If you are willing to learn, if you want to be who you want to be, it's up to you. I think if the young people, if one uses this one, you never go wrong. And no one should stop you. No.
What do you want to be remembered for at the end of after it's all said and done? What do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered as Virginia worked with the people, and she worked for the people, and she will always be with the people, and that's it. I'm not a politician.
But
I'm not a religious fanatic. I'm free. Once I get into those 2 categories I've mentioned, I'm not free. This will restrict you, this will restrict. I'm not harming anyone. I don't insult anyone, but my freedom, I love. Freedom to talk, freedom to write, freedom to dress. I'm still dressing the way I want. I still wear my jeans, my trousers, my shorts, my whatnot. I dress what I want, and I do what I want. And my hairstyle, of course, it's short hair. That's my trademark. Of course, we used to play it a long time ago, but it has been my trademark for a long time. And that's it. Virginia has always belonged to the people and will always be with the people. And I also I've got a soft heart for the vulnerable communities. I work in formal sectors, informal settlements, informal schools, and whatnot. Generally, that's how I take that very seriously.
And when you say the people, what do you mean? Do you mean in your immediate community or the world at large? When you say the people, what do you mean?
I've been everywhere. I was invited by Wana Engera in 2018 to the guest of honor for International Women's Conference there. I went to Kibera, in Kenya.
In Kenya, the township.
School, right at the middle of, at the middle of that settlement. Informal, that's the biggest, I think one of the biggest. I went, it was raining, it was muddy. We walked there and we were given escort to go. Magoso school, if you Google, even sometimes you'll find some of with this massive school. That's it. That's what I like to be with the ordinary people, because no one wants to go there. Someone says, that's muddy, it's dangerous, is this? What is it that is not? You have to get there. You have to be a witness. You see, when you're a writer, you can't write from nowhere. You have to see, you have to be there, you have to witness, you have to be part of it. That's the sort of a person, I can go anywhere. Yeah. Even in rural areas, farming communities, informal sector, even in, I'm also an African orchid expert. I sit on the IUCN Species Survival Commission. We've co-authored more than 70 articles on orchid journals. So that's also science and all this information that has been in journals is all over the world, in herbariums, whatnot, research and all. That's a different area, that's science. In fact, talking of science, 1967, as a little child in Standard 4, our class won the first prize in Natural Resources Board of Rhodesia when we did grasses. The grass, the roots, the flowers, the leaf, the type of soil, everything in a scrapbook, came to Salisbury, judged with the whole country. And I think by then my science nonsense had started. And then as for birds and all, and when we say IUCN Species Survival Commission, it means, I'm in that commission now, I started as Africa Committee, it means both fauna and flora. You see? And I always joke with people, and I said, look, on flora, I'm very strong, and also on fauna, but also humans are part of the fauna. So you're in my jurisdiction, and here we're joking. But that's how things are. I left on the orchids because I'm big time on orchids as well. African orchids.
Where can people get to bring you full circle? Where can people get your just is it Amazon Kindle? We can get your books, Amazon as well. That's where we can buy your publications.
Yes.
Where can people find your work? Okay, that's where we can find it.
Yeah, you can Google Amazon Google Store, Amazon Kindle bookstore.
Kindle.
I've not uploaded the hard copies yet on print on demand because now the access is there. But right now they're on Kindle, all of them. Yeah, that's okay. Desperate, Destiny, Highway Queen, Ray Angels. As for the big one that you saw, African Visionaries, with the other 40 contributors. That's a very important book for Africa as well, because people like, the first president of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah are there. People like Patrice Lumumba are there. People like Maria Maba are there, Wangari Maathai, whom I portrayed, the first Black woman Nobel Prize winner, people like Cabral and many others. Really, that's 42. That's a very, very big. We are very grateful because it was commissioned by Peter Hammerwerk in Germany and first published in German. And then Koso Foremensa of Sub-Saharan Publishers in Ghana, published in 2019. So obviously that's something big, which we need to also make. And I also wrote a review on Foreign Policy Research Institute, platform that can be found on Google as well. If you Google me, you'll find it. Because people were not so sure. A lot of people were intimidated by this book, that the reviews didn't come, but also COVID got into it because it came 2019. So I said, I volunteered, and somebody else had written another review. They didn't finish it. So I said, I'll take it up.
On that point, I always, at the end of each interview, I always ask this question around I mean, on that point of African visionaries, I always ask this question around the idea of story, or let's say the African story or Zimbabwean story, and how story, of course, has a narrative arc, as you would know, and an arc can always be shifted in a positive way, as an author. So my question for you is, for the Zimbabwean story, for the African story, what does shifting that narrative arc for the positive look like for you? So some people, they might say, oh, I want to see everyone being invested in each other's success more. Or some people might say, I want to see art centers. Some people have said things like that on this podcast. So for you, and it's always unique to the person, they say, I want to see this. For you, what does that look like? Shifting the narrative arc for the African story, Zimbabwean story, for the better look like?
First of all, you start from home. The Zimbabwean story, I think I would say there's no support for whatever needs to be done, whether you're writing about history, whether you're writing about just general fiction or whatever. No one supports. There's nothing. And I don't remember anything on our fiscus, especially in this country, where things are supported. And I always give an example of other South African, they try maybe in other countries. South Africa, I know because I worked with them, but I can't speak for other countries. I'm speaking for my own country where I come from, because definitely there's no support for even, I told you about the township, how it used to happen, what I told you at the beginning, at Fields and all that. No one has written about it because no one is supporting it and no one will do it. If you want to do it, you do it your own way. But how many people have money, especially in our situation right now? If support was there, or there's no will from wherever it's supposed to come from. We've got departments that should be dealing with that. They do, yes, they would like to do it, but it's not a priority, let me call it that way. Look, I've nothing against, let me give a crude example. I'm looking at Hollywood in America. They have all the support. They've got there because there was support from somewhere in the background, whether it's individuals, whether it's coming from the fiscus, whether there's support. You go to other countries maybe in Europe, or some African countries have done it, but very few. Very few, but there's no support. There's a lot of creativity. There's a lot of material. Even UNESCO tries to encourage when UN works with the artist organizations, it's government level where they have to come in and those people, if they're given the opportunity, I mean, things will happen. But some of us will go to our graves with things that we would have wanted to do. At least I've done the orchids, I've done the histories, I've done the sciences, I've done the 42-1, I've done myself and all. But this is my own initiative. A few people, okay, the so-called lucky ones, for a reason that maybe somebody wanted something to be whatever for themselves, for their benefit. They think they're being supported, and yet it's not for you, but it's for them. Oh, yes. So if there was support, the whole continent, we get supported by other countries, by other people from far away. Just to get a plane ticket to travel to Zambia for a conference, one cannot get it from anyone or anywhere. There's no provision, there's no department. So we have to find our own. So from there, maybe they send you or somebody else somewhere. I mean, all these conferences I've traveled through and all that stuff, I don't remember anything having come from home. No, it's sad, but we are supposed to create, we're supposed to put a big picture. We're supposed to show people. A lot of things have gone by the wayside.
So support
and if
structure.
we don't document and write, I feel, well, it's sad. It's a tragedy of our lives because we have not kept it. We've been given, of course, they said African people never wrote. That's why things were lost. Now we have an opportunity to document and write. We don't. So what? I'm so sorry. I'm not bashing anyone, but this is what I've experienced in my 69 years. I'm 69 years old this year, and I've come a long way. I've seen a lot. You have to fight for people to do this and do that. And in the long run, it looks like it's something which benefits not only us, it's global. I'm not boasting, but I think my stuff has gone global. Not because everybody will, I'm boasting about, I never boast. You never see me anyway boasting or doing anything. I have no time to boast because I'm busy working, turning the future. Before I go, I want to leave a lot of nonsense here, which is okay, good for people. But the thing is, look at Shakespeare. I'm giving a crude example of Shakespeare. People are still reading Shakespeare, they're still doing plays, they're still talking about him, they're still commemorating. And we have to do something. Once like an author dies today, they are forgotten. No one even talks about them, no one even remembers them. It's sad. Artists the same, musicians the same. Big do when you die, they talk about you, they'll do what, end of story. But look at other people. I mean, this is, you asked me that question and I'm very serious. This is my opportunity to say it, to get it out. And people can hear it, they can say what they want, but I'm very honest. And once you got a big mouth like Virginia's, people would rather not, I think you're very brave to invite me to talk to me. That's it. When something is not on, it's not on. And I'm in it. So let it be. And in the long run, we used to say in my language, there's a little worm which builds little sticks together. It goes in there and it moves alone. It's very productive. That's what I've become now. I work with others, I help others, but when it comes to core business, serious business, I make sure all my papers I write myself. All my things I have to do or present, I do it myself because I know if something goes wrong, Virginia's, I've seen it when spanners are thrown into your works when you try to sort of like share or something. It's critical. And when you become a person like me, everybody will be waiting to say, okay, we'll find out, we'll get there. So you have to be also on guard. It's not easy. Not everybody loves what I write, for instance, or what I say, or how I think, or how I do my things. Some love it, but I think some would rather not. I'm harmless.
Right. This has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing all that you have experienced. I mean, I can't even say, I can't reduce it to an hour interview, but you have a lot of information to share. You've been incredibly productive with your voice, and not for private, for personal gain, but for the benefit of us, So we appreciate you, I mean, at least as the host, but also I know the listeners will appreciate your perspective in your 69 years of life. And I think you have so much more that you still want to give. And we look forward to seeing that. And, we'll support and buy books where we can online and keep, supporting you where we can. So thank you so much.
Jimmy, thank you so much. I must thank you because it's not every day that we get opportunities like this. Like I told you, Virginia. But I'm so grateful and I'm happy I shared what I shared, and that's it. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much. Have a nice Sunday. I've done my work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Mangwanani, oga, pandino muka, ndokutsvaga uripiko, baby, watorwa nani, akuyevedza neiko, ona mangwanani. Lokutsvaga uripiko, baby, watorwa nani, akuyevedza neiko, yeah. I met anyone like you. And I must confess that I had never been so jealous to feel the stress. I am so taken by you. Oh baby, I'm so taken by you. Hey! Mangwanani, Oga Oga, Hani no muka, no kuchaga uripiko. Baby, baby, wachoro nani, agriyevezane iko. Hey, hey, ona mangwa nani, oga oga, pani no muka, no kuchaga uripiko. Baby, baby, wachoro nani, agriyevezane iko. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm so taken by you, baby. I'm so taken by you, honey. I'm so taken by you. Hey lover, I'm so taken by you. Hey! Yo, envision us taking a stroll, me holding your hand, we having a chat. I'm hoping that we go out again, you seem surprised. I can see by the look in your eyes. I said let's talk about it, you say you have to decide. You've been through many men, some of them you'd rather forget. Conscious bottles of love that left you rather upset, and now you're crying. I never made to see you shed a tear. Always brought around, she finally noticed that I care. When I'm willing to be there, what to do, give you my all, what to do, catch you when you fall. Girl, I love you, you're my African queen, the only one I see in my sweet African dreams. Mangwanani, Oga Oga, searching, searching, pani no muka, no kuchaga uripiko. Baby, baby, wachoro nani, agriyevezane iko. Searching, searching, mangwanani, oga oga, searching, searching, pani no muka, no kuchaga uripiko. Baby, baby, wachoro nani, agriyevezane iko. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Every morning, 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 mamba kweza. Pandino muka, yeah, exeni.